Hey rockers, thanks for coming back to Bloody F Mess Official for yet another true rock and roll tale. Today we're going back in the time machine to the year 1995 to talk about a concert featuring White Zombie, the Melvins, and Reverend Horton Heat at the Peoria Illinois Civic Center on May 16th, 1995. This was one hell of a show, my friends. I went to this show with Sister Tracy and we were very excited because we were White Zombie fans, particularly the La Sexorcisto album, which came out in, I believe, 92, and the Astro Creep 2000 album, which came out in 1995, the same year of this tour, and this was the Astro Creep 2000 tour with White Zombie. I got to tell you, first off, let's talk about the Reverend Horton Heat. Reverend Horton Heat opened the show. If I'm wrong about that, and there's a 10% chance I am, please correct me in the comments below. And before I go any further, please consider subscribing to my channel, helping a rocker out to build my channel. Please give it a like at the end if you like it, and share and leave comments, please. Okay, Reverend Horton Heat is a force to be reckoned with. These guys, three-piece band, 1986, out of Texas, consist of three people, and they are, like I say, a force to be reckoned with. Reverend Horton Heat on vocals and guitar, aka Jim Heath. I've actually interviewed Reverend Horton Heat. You can find that interview on my other channel, which is called The Church of Rock, all one word, on YouTube. And you can find my Reverend Horton Heat interview, I think, from 2008, 2009. Also, I got to hang out with Reverend Horton Heat and the band privately one time, but that's a whole nother story. Tonight, though, going back to that show in 95, these guys came out and I could not find the exact set list from their show, although I do have the Melvins and White Zombie. So that night I do know some of the songs they played, but the band is made up of also Jimbo Wallace, extraordinary bass player and showman, one of the best in the business. That guy is incredibly talented, and Scott Churilla. Scott Churilla was on the drums. He had this Elvis Presley type haircut. He looked like a total rockabilly guy. And you know, Reverend Horton Heat, they have rock and roll music that they kind of combine with all these different elements from 1950s country, surf, punk, rockabilly, big band, swing music. There's no stopping the hurricane force known as Reverend Horton Heat. Again, I don't have the exact set list, but I do know some of the songs they played that night, including Forbidden Jungle, Slow, Now, Right Now, Psychobilly Freak Out, I Can't Surf, Slingshot, and a lot of you fans know these songs, Cruisin' for a Bruisin', 5-0 Ford, and of course, Big Sky was another they played that night. Watching Reverend Horton Heat is unlike any other band because, man, there's the Reverend up there, well, at least back then, dangling a cigarette out of his mouth, playing a big red, it looks like a hollow body guitar that night, and it was amazing watching him, and the bass player in particular is a hell of a showman. But combined, it's almost like a three-ring circus up there. It's so good, and they can back it up musically big time. Jimbo's up there on bass. I'm talking a big old 50s stand-up bass, right? And this thing's like a big, almost taller than him. He's standing on top of this thing. He's twirling it around as he's playing. He's got this stand-up bass laying on its side. He's playing it on his knees. These guys were just a force to be reckoned with. And man, I pity the fool that messed with Reverend Horton Heat. But yeah, they are a one-of-a-kind act. I've gotten to see him several times over the years. And again, I got to spend time with Reverend Horton Heat in the band, in their trailer once. And that was pretty fun and a little bit interesting, which I'll tell another time. And again, find my interview with Reverend Horton Heat on The Church of Rock, and please subscribe there as well. When they were done, of course, and I'm pretty sure that they were the first band. It could have been Melvins first, but I don't think so. The Melvins, that's another band that I really love, but they're kind of an acquired taste. You either love them or you don't know much about them at all, or you don't like them. But I love the Melvins, right? And it's one extreme or the other with those guys. Their last album before they appeared in Peoria was called Stoner Witch in 1994. Of course, the band Melvins made up of some interesting characters that continue today. Buzz Osborne, of course, is the leader of the band pretty much, along with his drummer buddy Dale Crover. Those guys are killer. Buzz Osborne came out with his trademark big old, almost curly afro head of hair that was black with a white streak down the middle as he was slowly going gray. Well, purple gray here. Anyway, on the bass guitar that night was the Mark Dutram, pardon me. And that guy is who we were standing right in front of, Sister Tracy and I. And he was wearing a black cowboy hat, all decked out in black. We were kind of watching him thinking, this guy's in his own little world, but he was good, man. And the Melvins were great. Buzz Osborne was up there headbanging, and they were super heavy. And to be quite honest, I'm not sure if Peoria, Illinois was really ready for the Melvins. What do you think? Were you there? Tell me in the comments, am I wrong or right? So that night, man, before I tell you what they played, do you know some trivia about the Melvins? Did you know that past touring members of their band include Chris Novoselic of Nirvana and Tom Flynn from the band Fang? Yep, those guys actually played in the Melvins as touring members before. That's crazy. And there's many other people too. The Melvins formed in Washington in 1983, and they came out that night. This is the exact set list they played. Revolve, Hooch, With Teeth, Goose Freight Train, Sweet Willie Rollbar. Then they went into, of course, Road Bull, a song called Night Goat, Snake Appeal, and Sheevel. Now, those of you that are hardcore Melvins fans are saying, wow, what a set list. It was. It was really heavy and pounding. Buzz Osborne was just full of energy that night. It was really intense. The bass player just he was pretty intense too, but in a different way, more introverted. But Buzz was obviously exerting, and the drummer, of course, exerting so much energy and pulling in the crowd's energy the best they could. But you could tell the Peorians were kind of like, when's White Zombie coming on? Don't get me wrong. People liked him and they appreciated the music. But that night they were killer. There was lots of feedback when they played. I love that about the Melvins. They're nice and noisy. Lots of feedback. Of course, they were super heavy, noisy fun. That's what I remember about the Melvins. And I got to see them open for Kiss. And gosh, a couple other times after this. So we'll have to do more stories with the guys from the Melvins who are still playing today. Now let's get to the headlining main event of this story, White Zombie. Many of you are Rob Zombie fans and White Zombie fans. I was able to see Rob Zombie solo at one of the Ozfest tours I went to. But this night was classic, man, because this night was made up of Rob Zombie on vocals, Sean Yseult on the bass. Everybody loves her, right? What a hottie. Jay Younger on guitar, who used to play with Rights of the Accused, the punk band in Chicago that I got to open up for when I was in my band Chips Patrol in '83. So that was crazy. And also on drums, John Tempesta. Am I pronouncing that right? John Tempesta. He was also formerly in the band Testament and Exodus. What a killer drummer that guy is. The whole band was amazing. I gotta say though, man, with Jay and Sean on guitar and bass, those guys, those people defined White Zombie's sound. Sure, Rob had the theatrics and the imagery and the vocals, but that sound was not like anybody else. Man, think about it. Think about the way they sounded. Thumbs up to Jay and Sean. By the way, Sean did put out a great book that I did read years ago, couple of years back, called I'm in the Band. Of course, White Zombie broke up in 1998, sadly, and Rob Zombie went on to be Rob Zombie solo. And I got to tell you, they were an American heavy metal band formed in New York City in 1985. And the night I saw them, we were just completely excited. Rob Zombie comes out on stage. He's wearing his black hat. It's like a beat up kind of cowboy. Not a cowboy hat, more like not like Slash's hat either, but kind of in between. He also had his black beard and like long black dirty dreads, and he was dressed kind of like a scum rocker kind of guy. Totally metal. Yeah. These guys, man, they were killer on stage. Tons of smoke, tons of lights. They had a big screen going the whole time with all kinds of different effects. Sometimes it was black and white. Sometimes it was color. Sometimes it was old films, people's faces up close. And almost before every song when they played, you would hear a pre-recorded something, like something trippy that was pre-recorded. So it was a definite theatrical production, and the band was awesome. A little muddy on the sound, but it was raw. And I'm going to tell you the exact set list they performed that evening. And I gotta say, my favorite albums are Les Exorcisto and Astro Creep 2000. Those are the most popular ones by those guys. And I gotta say that Jay came out looking cool. Jay Younger with his long black dreads, it looked like he had his shorts on. And of course, like I say, Sean was looking great. This first song those guys broke into was Electric Head Part 1. What a killer tune, man. That was a great one. The scary pre-recorded sounds coming out of the PA beforehand was perfect. Smoke was blasting up, and when they came out, it was like the set of a horror film. It was great. Second song they did, of course, was Supercharger Heaven. Rob was running around. I gotta say, his energy at this show never stopped. He was just everywhere, working the crowd. At some points, he was perched on the monitor. Sometimes he would get between amps, like on the side of the stage, and crouch down and sing. Lots of times he was engaging right in front of the audience, kind of, singing down, and the audience sing. It was awesome. Jay Younger was also another bundle of energy. And then there was, Sean. She was so talented. That chick had the best bass licks ever. One of my favorite bass players, and definitely overlooked and underrated. Sean, props to you if you're watching this. The third song they did was Real Solution number 9. Jay, I remember him jumping up and down during the song, like jumping up and down like a pogo stick. That was killer, man. Black Sunshine, if you remember the album, Iggy Pop did the intro to Black Sunshine on the album. They played that, and that was a crowd favorite for sure. Welcome to Planet MF. You know what MF stands for, right? And slash Psychoholic Slag was the next song, and that was heavy. They went into I Am Legend next. Again, so much smoke, so much energy. The crowd was eating it up. Everyone was completely absorbed in the stage visuals and the sounds. And I could smell that sweet smell around me of, you know what? Electric Head Part 2, The Ecstasy was next. And then I think that's when Jay did a guitar solo. It might have been a couple songs later. Memory's a little fuzzy. I remember the guitar solo was pretty short, and pretty basic, but very cool and unique. And he wasn't trying to be Eddie Van Halen or do real fast stuff. It was kind of in line with the horror theme, you know what I mean? I Zombie was the next song on the set list. Then they went into a crowd favorite, More Human Than Human. Man, that was a radio classic when I was working at iRock Radio. We played that song so often, it's ingrained in my brain. It is. Let's see, during that, the crowd was singing along. There was a lot of spotlights all over the place during that one because it was a crowd favorite and they knew it was going to be. Creature of the Wheel was next, and that was the 10th song on the set list. Then they went into Soul Crusher. Love that tune. Heavy stuff, man. More energy from Rob, running back and forth. It would never ended. I was getting tired watching the guy. But even though it's a radio favorite, it's still probably my favorite White Zombie song. One of the coolest songs with the best riffs in rock and roll. And you know what I'm talking about. Thunder Kiss 65. What a killer tune. When that song starts on the radio or anytime you hear it, you know to turn it up. Because White Zombie kills, and they don't kill any better than they do on Thunder Kiss 65. It was instantly recognizable. What a great song, you guys. Grease Paint and Monkey Brains was next. Yep, of course. Then they went into the Black Sabbath classic that they had recorded for Nativity in Black, a tribute to Black Sabbath, which I highly recommend. Also Typo Negative and so many other bands on there. But they did Children of the Grave, and you know that's got a very distinctive Geezer Butler bass line. Dun, 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 dun. God, you gotta love their version of Children of the Grave. After that, you guys, they went into a tune called Blood, Milk, and Sky. I guess I should back up for a second. After they did Thunder Kiss 65, that's when the encore was happening. The lights went down. They had a big sign in front of the drum set that was all lit up with white little round lights that said White Zombie, and every once in a while it would flash. Well, the lights went down and it flashed after about a minute, and everybody just made a lot of noise. And for about 3-4 minutes, maybe a few minutes, we made a ton of noise thinking, come on, and they came back out. That's when they busted into Grease Paint and Monkey Brains, into Children of the Grave, ending the set with Blood, Milk, and Sky. Now, I gotta say, there was a ton of flash pots going on. There was just a ton of people with their lighters screaming and yelling. But I think seeing bands like Alice Cooper or Manson or White Zombie and people that do a theatrical show like Guar, they tend to tire you out quicker than a band that doesn't have that theater, because you're being assaulted with all your senses. You're watching, you're seeing all this stimulation, all the lights flashing, the pots going off, you know, the band's running around, the screens, all the smoke. It was really, really cool, man. I gotta say, it was one of my more memorable concerts, absolutely. White Zombie played for about an hour and 20 minutes. Don't think there's any more notes here, my friends, but I will be back for a live chat with you guys tonight, Saturday, August 3rd at 6 p.m. Pacific time. You're all invited, and we will talk about some of the negative feedback and comments I've gotten, and we will make light of them. We are sure going to make fun of them, and I'm going to respond in real time to each and every one of those criticisms and nasty little pieces of feedback. Trust me, though, I don't get very much of that stuff. I just thought it would make for interesting conversation, and so I've saved them. Also, I'll thank a few people tomorrow and talk about a few other things. Catch you then. Please subscribe to the channel. Give it a like if you liked it, and keep on rocking. Cheers, my friends, and thanks for coming to Bloody F Mess Official.